The thing that I've seen when I look at credit card data and other things that I can get for the private sector is that while people have been spending more money at gas stations, they've been spending more money at everything else, which means that they're still very, very optimistic about the state of the economy, and they should be. If you look at GDP now, right now, it's north of 4%. And so despite this disruption, all the momentum that we built with the big, beautiful bill and AI and everything else is really, what the main economic story of the U.S. is.
Could it be that they're charging more on their credit cards because they literally can't afford the inflation that's making everything a lot more expensive under the Trump administration because he decided to start a war against Iran? They closed the Strait of the Hormuz, cutting off 20% of the globe's oil and gas supply, which makes the cost of energy rise, which then has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the economy. Could it be that? But Kevin Hassett, Cenk, he's the current National Economic Council Director for the Trump administration. He thinks that things are going great.
And he's bragging about how, people are spending more on everything they buy. Yeah, that's called inflation, bro.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. But in a minute, I'm going to give you some stats to prove what a liar Kevin Hassett is. And they are amazing to the point of being amusing. All right, Anna, give us more receipts first.
I'm just gonna do a little spoiler alert right off the bat. I am not amused by any of this. I'm infuriated, and I don't know how others aren't as infuriated as I am, because we are literally paying more for everything in order to fight a war on behalf of a foreign country. Okay, that's what's happening right now. And they're trying to spin it, and Hassett is failing miserably at it. So in the same interview, Hassett went on to push back against some recent polling from the University of Michigan that shows how consumer sentiment or consumer confidence has cratered recently. Take a look.
We find that basically the consumer sentiment indicator at the University of Michigan is just a political survey. And in fact, the correlation between what independents say and Democrats say is 0.8 or 0.9. It's almost exactly perfectly correlated. And so what they've done is they've somehow devised a political survey that tells us how Democrats are feeling about things.
First of all, it's not a political survey that only focuses on one party. It would have absolutely no credibility if that were the case. But just the whole notion that this is discredited because it's merely a political survey, isn't that what all polls are?
So, and what he's doing is now Republicans and independents are as frustrated as Democrats. So he's doing a little sleight of hand there to say, well, they must have only asked Democrats.
Guys.
No, they literally, you just told us they asked Democrats and Republicans, they agree because the economy sucks.
Yes, exactly. By the way, okay, so we've got incredibly intelligent listeners who are already privy to this, but just in case, this is a perfect example of how the Uniparty uses the language of partisan politics to dupe you. So in this case, if you are a Republican voter, what he just said is meant to dupe you into thinking, no, actually the economy is doing really well. This survey is just Democrats complaining, and I hate Democrats. You should hate the people who are picking your pockets to fund a war on behalf of a foreign country, because that's what's happening right now. Okay, so let me continue. Within minutes of Hassett directing people to look at the conference board's findings, as they would be more accurate in regard to consumer sentiment, the conference board dropped its report saying this. Take a look.
Consumer confidence report today says US consumer sentiment is lower in May than it was last month. Experts point to consumers' concerns about rising costs of prices and everyday goods across the board due to instability in the Middle East. The report comes at a time when more than 75% of Americans say the economy's in bad shape. While Wall Street has scored some major wins, Americans are stretching their paychecks and they feel a disconnect.
Just in case you don't know, 77% of Americans are not Democrats. So when 77% of Americans have bad feelings about the economy, it means both Democrats and Republicans are saying that the economy is bad and not good. Just in case Hassett needs someone to decode this for him, the expert on the economy.
So let me throw more numbers at the smiling fool. And the way he does it is so absurd. Everything everything's going great. But bro, they're still gonna go to the grocery store and the gas station and they're gonna see the prices, and no matter how much you smile like an idiot, it's not gonna help. So here are the devastating numbers. He said, people are so confident, that's why they're spending so much. The economic consumer confidence index is at negative 45%.
Things are going great.
Negative 45%.
Fantastic.
Okay, so how many people think the country's going in the wrong direction economically? 68%. Happy to find out that 68% of the country is hardcore Democrats, apparently. And how many people think that the economy is in excellent or just good shape? Just good. Only 16%.
Things are going great, Jake. I don't know about you. I'm super jazzed. Economy's doing well.
It's going great. We got 60% locked up. Those idiots will think that higher prices are a good thing.
They legit think the American people are stupid. Okay, that's why this is not a partisan thing. Both parties insult you. They insult your intelligence, and you shouldn't let them. So, by the way, the report, I want to get into the granular numbers here. From the very report that Hassett said we should be paying attention to, right? This is the Conference Board's report on consumer sentiment. They found that the confidence index dipped 0.7 points to 93.1 in May, down from an upwardly revised 93.8 in April. The present situation index, based on consumers' assessment of current business and labor market conditions, retreated by 3.2 points to 121.2. So the numbers directly correlate with the war against Iran. And to be sure, they shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Again, 20% of the globe's oil and liquefied natural gas is transited through that strait. So we have less supply, same demand, which means prices go up. And higher costs for energy trickles down to higher costs for goods and services. And we're experiencing that already, at least the beginning phases of that.
So apparently Trump is calling for unity after another violent incident. And of course, depending on where you get your news, that story gets framed in completely different ways. On the right, the angle is that Trump is a uniquely powerful figure who keeps getting targeted because he's so effective. On the left, the focus is on something much more uncomfortable for them to deal with: Trump's long relationship with violent rhetoric and the political climate that he's helped to create. Now, you just saw how easy it is to look at one story and immediately compare two completely different narratives. And that is exactly why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. Because once you start looking at coverage that way, it becomes a lot easier to see when the media isn't informing you, it's managing your perception. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering at all, so you're not trapped inside the version of events your media bubble wants you to accept. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code and get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan. It's a great deal.
So Dana Peterson, who happens to be the Conference Board's chief economist, says this: consumer confidence edged downward in May as the inflationary impacts of the war in the Middle East intensified. Consumer appraisals of current business conditions and the current labor market were moderately less positive compared to last month. Further, she says, this is somewhat offset by modest improvement in consumers' expectations for business conditions and the labor market 6 months from now, meaning people think that 6 months from now things will get better. They've got another thing coming.
I don't know where she's getting that from either, by the way.
Meanwhile, income expectations eased in May as those anticipating less income rose.
Look, I'll say one quick last thing here. I don't trust anybody from Wall Street anymore because, I mean, guys like Andrew Ross Sorkin are talking about we're gonna have a Great Depression style crash coming soon, right? And I agree with him. And so I'll give him credit, right? So he's one guy who covers Wall Street on CNBC, and I think he's getting it right in that particular case. Everyone else, they're like, yeah, every day the stock market breaks a new record. and these morons keep buying. Maybe they're not morons. Maybe they know something we don't, where they're just going to pump it up, and then they're all going to get out first, and then it's going to crash, and they're going to rebuy. And I get it. That's a trick that's been used many times before.
Yep.
But the average guy is going to get slaughtered when this crash happens, right? Your 401ks are the suckers at the table. You got no one defending you. Whereas like the top guys on Wall Street are maniacal, understandably so, about protecting their own money. And so this is going to be one of the greatest robberies in American history. You're gonna lose so much value. But to this moment, everybody in Wall Street's like, everything is great. There's no war. The war's not going to cost us anything. The economy's fantastic. They're in la la land.
So for our listeners who are older, who are thinking about retiring soon, please reach out to a fiduciary, not a broker, a fiduciary, and just ask for some advice on what to do to protect yourself, right? Because if you don't need that money soon, you buy and you hold, you can't really time the market. Like that's my take. And I'm not a professional, don't take my advice if you don't want to. Please reach out to a fiduciary, because I am worried about soon to be retirees losing a huge portion of their nest egg just as they're about to retire.
Yeah, and then you know what they'll say at the end? No one could have seen this coming.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.